Hello, welcome back. In our last lecture, we talked a little bit about what integrity was in sort of an abstract or intuitive sense. Today we're going to talk about modeling integrity, how you would build a formal model that involves integrity, just as we did with confidentiality. Okay, well, just as we did with confidentiality, let's see if we can associate integrity labels with subjects and objects as we did confidentiality labels with subjects and objects in Bell and LaPadula. Now, an important proviso that we have to make is that integrity and confidentiality are actually orthogonal issues, which means that they're not really related to one another. You could have a high integrity subject with low confidentiality or vice versa. And so, if you're going to have a system that involves both confidentiality and integrity, you better have different sets of labels for integrity and for confidentiality and treat them separately. Okay, so what should integrity labels look like? Well, we already have a particular mechanism in place for confidentiality labels, so why not borrow as much of that as we can? And in particular, we're going to make our integrity labels look just like confidentiality labels. That is, they'll have a hierarchical component which sort of gives us the absolute level of confidence that we place in this subject or object, and also a set of categories. In this case, notice they're not need-to-know categories. They're categories which tell us the domain of relative competence of the document, say, or the individual. So for example, if you have a physics professor, they might have a label, an integrity label, expert, and then the set of categories physics, meaning that they have a very high degree of credibility in that field. On the other hand, you know, if you had a question in art or politics, maybe that's not the person you would want to go to, right? Because they don't have necessarily any particular competence in those subject matters. Okay, so since we have integrity labels which have the same structure as our confidentiality labels, then we should be able to apply the dominates relation between two integrity labels. So for example, if we have label 1 which is expert in physics and label 2 which is student in physics, then it should be the case that label 1 dominates label 2 because expert is greater than or equal to student, and the set of categories, physics, is a superset of the set of categories, physics. And we just apply exactly the same rules that we did with our Bell and LaPadula labels. And later on we'll come to the reason why we care about dominates in this case. Okay, so as with multi-level security, we want to ask what rules can we put in place to build an access control system? Because once again, just as with Bell and LaPadula, we want to control the access of subjects to objects, right? So recall that whenever we're coming up with a set of rules for an access control policy, it's a good idea to step back and ask, well, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? i.e., what is the meta policy of the system? And I would like to suggest to you that for integrity, our meta policy is something like the following. We don't want bad information, i.e. low integrity information, to corrupt higher level or high integrity information. That's what we don't want to have happen. And so by analogy with Bell and LaPadula, remember there we didn't want information to flow down in confidentiality. Here we don't want information to flow up in integrity, right? And again, by analogy with Bell and LaPadula, recall that there were two ways that information could flow. And in this case, low integrity information can flow up if a low integrity subject writes that information up, or a high integrity subject reads the information up. So the high integrity subject can pull the information up by reading. A low integrity subject could push the information up by writing. And that's what we want to avoid. Okay, so what have we said in this lecture? We said that we can treat integrity analogously to the way we treated confidentiality and give labels, just as we did in confidentiality and in BOP. However, it's important to remember that confidentiality and integrity are actually orthogonal, and so we shouldn't ever make the mistake of having one label and viewing it as both a confidentiality label and an integrity label. And a possible integrity policy, something that we want to have happen within our system, is that we don't want bad information to corrupt good information, i.e. we don't want low integrity information to flow up in the system. Thank you.